It's Matt Kirkner with the Tech Ed Podcast. We are here in the FANUC Education Pavilion at Automate. Let me tell you a little bit about both of these. FANUC, the largest robotics and CNC company on the planet. If you walk into a manufacturing operation and see those yellow robots or see those yellow striped CNC controls, that is FANUC's product. We see them all over the place, and we are very, very fortunate to be here in the FANUC Education Pavilion. Folks from FANUC joining us all week here at Automate, which happens to be the largest gathering of automation professionals in the entire North American continent. And it has been fascinating to see all of these incredible technologies, from robotics to automation, collaborative robots, all kinds of material moving, material handling processes and technologies. We're seeing smart sensors and smart devices. Of course, we talk about those all the time here on the Tech Ed Podcast, and it has been a phenomenal week here at Automate. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a fascinating conversation about somebody who is doing a ton of good and making a huge difference here in Detroit. We are right in Detroit right now. We're right in the Huntington Place Convention Center. And our guest is Tiffany Graydon. She is the Director of Workforce Development and Education for Focus Hope. You are going to enjoy hearing all about this amazing organization. And Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, no, we're excited to have you and excited to learn about all the just incredible work that you guys are doing. It's absolutely amazing. For our listeners who may not be familiar, Tiffany, tell us a little bit about Focus Hope and the work you're doing.
Sure. So Focus Hope is a civil human rights organization, also a social justice organization founded out of the 1967 riots in Detroit.
Okay.
In 1968, they looked around, a priest and one of his parishioners, a housewife, and saw that there was so much civil unrest that there was something that they could do. And this is a project that they thought would only last for a summer, and they named it Summer Hope.
Okay.
And decided that a way to help the community, because a lot of the grocery stores were burned down, would be to provide food.
Okay.
So it started as a food program that they built out into a commodity and supplemental food program, one of the first in the nation.
Okay.
That's been replicated across 26 states.
Wow.
And one of the things that is a big thing for Focus Hope is what's next.
Right.
So after making that contribution to mothers with children and seniors for food, it was what's next? What do we do next? How can we help more? And so there was some employment practices that were going on in Detroit and the near suburbs that Focus Hope felt a call to action to help about.
Okay.
And so they partnered with a law firm very close, and I won't name the organization, but they sued because of the employment practices for those practices to change.
Okay.
And won, and Focus Hope was, just until last year, the fiduciary over that trust.
Oh, interesting.
And so from there, it was, okay, we won this settlement for these folks, but that's one organization.
Sure.
How do we really impact the employment practices across the board? And one of the things that they decided that we could do was to make sure that the talent around Detroit and its suburbs had those skills where those employment practices would be eradicated. And so in 1981, our Workforce Development and Education Division was born.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about the work that Workforce Development and Education Division does.
Yeah. So, again, our division was born in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Our very first flagship program was our Machinist Training Institute. Okay. And so those very first graduates broke race and gender barriers in the automotive field.
Okay.
And so over the years, we decided, again, what can we do more? Mm-hmm. Right. And so around 1989, we established the Center for Advanced Technologies,
okay,
where our graduates who went through certification programs would have the opportunity to earn college degrees.
Okay.
And so in all fields of engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and those students could be right on Focus Hope's campus, and we would bring those colleges in. Even the instructors at Focus Hope became adjunct professors, so they didn't even have to leave the campus.
Wow.
And we continued to grow. In 1999, we started the Information Technology Center, because one of the things that we saw is we had an IT department, but around 1995, there was a big boom, right? And so there were tech companies who were moving to Detroit, and Focus Hope being a little nonprofit, they kept stealing our talent we had in our IT department. And so the thought was, well, if all of this talent is needed, why don't we teach people to do this? That way we keep our talent in-house, and we feed those companies with talented employees.
Absolutely. Awesome.
And we've continued to do that as industries have grown over that last 41 years.
It really strikes me that you are so far ahead of so many trends that we're seeing even today. I mean, when we talk about terms like advanced technology, I mean, you were thinking about those types of things, but all the way back in the 90s. It sounds like that's absolutely fascinating. Thinking about credentialing and the importance of that, and the way that credentialing has grown over the last 5 to 10 years across education and industry. You were way ahead of that trend. So it feels like in a lot of ways you're kind of paving the way for other organizations and being really, really innovative, getting in, early on the IT trend. Do you see that as part of the role of the organization, is getting ahead of these trends and then providing pathways for people to emerging jobs and emerging career opportunities?
Absolutely. Our co-founder that I talked about, who was a priest, and his church was right across the street from Oakland Boulevard on our campus at Focus Hope, who bought up these buildings down the whole block and made this beautiful campus, was very forward thinking. We're talking about, he was a Star Trek fan in the 60s. So if you come to our campus, like, it's a total Star Trek design.
No way.
We're talking about in the early 90s, we had iris scans and biometric readers in the 90s.
That's crazy.
The shape of portions of our building are shaped like starships. So when you overlook the shop floor, it is literally shaped like starships. And our cafe is called the Enterprise Cafe.
I love it.
So we have been doing this for a very long time and have carried that mission forward. It is what we do to stay relevant, one, but how we really make an impact for our students as well as the employers in this region.
That's absolutely an incredible story, and to think about this, how many priests are into things like, into things like Star Wars Star Trek, and thinking into the future, and actually designing an entire facility around some of that vision, making it inviting. Really kind of sends the message to your participants and all these lives that you're affecting for the better, that we are living in the future, that the future's bright. There's all kinds of exciting things that are going on in and around not just the entire economy, but certainly advanced manufacturing. You found your way into this just incredible career where it feels like you get to work around really cool technologies, really awesome people, and do tons and tons of good along the way. I mean, it almost sounds like a dream come true as far as a profession would be concerned. Tiffany, tell us about how you found your way into this profession and into this role that you have now.
So it's very funny, one, how I found myself into this profession, but two, how I even ended up working at Focus Hope. You would have never been able to tell me that I would have worked for this organization, particularly because I am a second generation Focus Hope employee. So I grew up around the organization. My mother was one of the very first female engineers. First of all, you didn't see a lot of female engineers in the late 80s, early 90s. You definitely didn't see women of color,
no question,
particularly running a manufacturing environment. And Focus Hope gave her a shot to be able to do that, to train their students, to be out front. And at that time, Focus Hope was a supplier. They weren't just a training facility. In the 90s, we had contracts with the big three. And so she was running plants here, as well as they set up plants in St. Catharines, Canada. So seeing my mom, both of my parents are engineers, but seeing them in the field definitely made me believe in, and there are 5 of us, no engineers. But it definitely made me think like I would never be in probably any STEM field, because just being around it all the time. But I definitely didn't think I would work at Focus Hope. It just didn't seem like it's a place I loved, but I didn't think that I would work there. And so after going to school and moving for a bit, I went to visit, and like we had some great conversation about the work that they were doing, and I signed on. I literally started as a trainer, like I was teaching within the training programs, and how I even got into information. So I am now the director of workforce development and education. Recently, Prior to that, I was a program manager for our Information Technology Center. So I love to say I am a recovering IT person.
Yeah, right.
But it is a love for just this work. But business was my thing.
Okay.
It's what I thought I would do.
Is that what you
and my
studied
sister
in college,
convinced me, she's a business major too.
Okay.
She convinced me that IT was a good thing to connect with it.
Sure.
And it became my passion. It was the thing that I was designed to do. And so people always ask, like, I have tons of experience and certifications. Like, why are you at a nonprofit? And it's because there are, when I came into the field, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me 17, 18 years ago. I was young, female, and African American. And so I wanted to look back and pull other people who look like me into this field to diversify it.
Awesome.
And so it's why why I have such a passion for the work, and seeing other women, other people of color who want to get into this industry that I love, in addition to the other industries that I'm very connected to, advanced manufacturing, is why I'm so passionate about this work, and why I've stayed at Focus Hope for so long. Absolutely. This is my 15th year.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, you definitely found your way into the role that's absolutely perfect, and obviously it's got to be just incredibly fulfilling to be doing all this great work that you're doing. You know, my wife is actually a master's degree engineer, and she'll tell stories about when she was going to engineering school in the late '80s. She was one of like 4 or 5 women in the whole program at a major university. Yeah. And so to your point, for your mother to be, and I don't know what the era was, but I'm guessing maybe sometime similar, for her to be a female engineer, a woman of color coming into the market at that point in time. I mean, much different place than we are now. Still have lots and lots of work to do, but certainly we've made a lot of progress. What a great inspiration for you. And now you're carrying on that incredible work that she did for all those years. So it's so kudos to you for all that effort and all the lives that you're changing. I want to talk about how you go about changing some of those lives. You mentioned machining, talked a little bit about IT. Let's go a little deeper in terms of, who are the individuals that are taking part in the Focus Hope programs? What curriculum are they going through? What is their experience? And then maybe a little bit about what they're doing afterwards.
Sure. So in order to even get to the point that I can tell you, like, our training, I want to share with you how we connect with people. Great. So there are a variety of ways, but particularly the biggest way, you think there's social media, and of course we market on social media, right? Of course we market in all of the normal ways that you generally market a program. However, our biggest form of marketing is word of mouth. People who have been through the program, that have family members or friends who they see successful, who have gone through our training programs. And so we have people that come in directly from high school who say, look, college isn't for me. I want to be workforce ready, and I need some skills, education, and training. And Focus Hope is my option, my first option. We have some folks who have worked in different industries, and they're now have decided, particularly after the Great Resignation, that it's time for a career change. And they may have worked 15, 20 years in one career, and they've come to us to retrain in a new industry. And then we have people who have gone to college and realize, look, I have a degree, but I don't have really practical experience. And hands-on education, learning, and certifications is what is going to give me that edge to be able to really break into the industry. So those are the people who come to us.
Wide range of people, by the way. I mean, you think about students coming right out of high school all the way through people who have been in the workforce for 20 years, or maybe, earned a degree in a field that isn't relevant or isn't rewarding, or didn't prepare them for the kind of job they want. And that's all of those people are the people that you're serving.
We have literal families that come, like parents and children.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Which is so awesome, because they get to graduate together. They get to go into their industries together. We have a wide range of people that would be in any cohort from 18 to 60.
Wow.
So I think that is what makes us really special and different. Particularly when you have an 18-year-old who hasn't had a lot of life experience, but then they're matched with someone in the classroom who is 38 or 40, who's like, hey, look, let me share some things with you about the workplace, about life. It gets them kind of on track.
I love that.
Versus just being in college where they can be a knucklehead.
Yeah,
right?
no, exactly. Well, and as a person who works with a lot of people much younger than I am, the flip side of it for some of the older folks is that it helps you stay a little bit younger and relevant and understand that, there's a lot of good in this, the generation and the generation after that. To me, it really, I think it helps keep me young to be around younger people, at least mentally and emotionally, if not physically. So what a really, really cool just combination of different ages, different individuals, all helping each other kind of get through the programs. Tell us a little bit more about the programs they're in.
Yep. So all of our programs are in pathways modules. So our programs are pathways to careers.
Mm-hmm.
So students have the ability in information technology to stay as short as 5 weeks if need be. But they could stay longer to build on stackable credentials. So say, for instance, they're interested in industrial manufacturing or advanced manufacturing, and they say, hey, I think I want to become a CNC machinist. And they come in and they go through that curriculum, right? And they're learning, and the more they learn, they think, look, I'll be a more well-rounded candidate if I stay a little longer, get some more stackable credentials, and I could become a robotic welder.
Right.
So we have CNC machining, we have within advanced manufacturing, we have robotics and welding, automation and design. These students can go throughout the training cycle and continue to earn stackable credentials, or they can exit at certain points to say, hey, I came here to become a CNC machinist. This is really what I want to do. I'm ready to exit to career and placement services.
Wow.
Or they can continue on and continue to earn those skills and certifications. And so every program is set up that way. Information technology, there are a variety of career industries that they can, exit into: cybersecurity, web development, software development, network design, server and system design. They can build up these credentials or exit at any point.
And so I'm hearing IT, advanced manufacturing. You talked about robotics, robotic welding, CNC machining. Are those the primary lanes that folks are in, or are there more?
Nope. So Focus Hope is designed, if you put in your mind, just like a college is.
Okay.
So think about a college and how they have the School of Business, right? The College of Business, the College of Engineering. At Focus Hope, we have the Machinist Training Institute, which all of advanced manufacturing lives.
Okay.
We have the Information Technology Center, where all of information technology programs live.
Okay.
And then we have what we call workforce development specials, which are industry specific, very hot, in demand fields, and they can change at any point.
Okay.
So right now we're running in our workforce development specials a construction training pathways program. So we have construction. We're also running a logistics and transportation pathways program, and it's not just a program where a student can get their CDLA license. They can come in, get that CDLA license, and then decide, you know what? I want to do more, that pathways, right? I want to do more than just drive. I would like to be an owner operator and own my own rig and be a business owner. So they get that business piece.
Got it.
They learn how to create a business plan. They learn how to go after funding to be able to buy their first truck, and how they connect for subcontracts. So in addition to that, our largest energy provider here in Michigan is DTE.
Okay.
And so we are connected to DTE for a program called the DTE Tree Trimming Program.
Okay.
And this is for tree trimming, arboricultural line clearance folks.
Sure.
And so again, this is an apprenticeship. Those students can come in. They start off as woodsmen, meaning they're learning how to identify trees and what tree limbs and dead trees look like, and how to properly climb the trees and cut them. But they eventually can make up to $150,000 a year as tree trimming line clear. And we have a lot of power outages in Michigan. And so there's a great need. They've pumped about $77 million into this program.
Wow.
Because it addresses a major need with the electric grid in Michigan.
Well, and think about, a young person right out of high school, and not necessarily, but just as that example, to have, almost regardless of, where they've been, looking over their shoulder, to have this pathway into the future of a job that could pay $150,000 a year if you're preparing them with the right skills and competencies, and they stick to their learning, and they have that dream or that goal. I can see where the name Focus Hope comes from, because you're really taking that hope for their future and focusing it on one specific thing that can absolutely change their life. Is that it's got to be happening all the time.
Yep. And one of the other things I didn't talk about were we have many paths to apprenticeships.
Okay.
So we have different apprenticeships. We're connected to the Great Lakes Water Authority, which is the biggest provider of water
Yep.
here in Michigan.
Yep.
And so we're connected with them, and we're providing apprentices as water technicians, as electrical instrumentation technicians. So there are a wide variety of construction apprenticeships that we offer as well.
I mean, just this is huge variety of different opportunities for people of all ages. Tell me about the funding. You mentioned the $77 million that came from, was it DCE? Is that what you called them?
And so that isn't $77 million that went to Focus Hope.
Okay.
However, this is $77 million that DTE is investing in really developing tree trimmers and the program and infrastructure as well.
Shows us the scope of the need, and then you're funding it itself. I know it sounded like initially it was through this lawsuit way back 50 years ago, and then had this trust that was being administered. Are there other funding sources?
So we are funded a variety of ways throughout Focus Hope. So Focus Hope is not just workforce development. As I said, we are a civil, human rights, and social justice organization. So we have workforce development, which I'm here talking about. But Focus Hope actually addresses the needs of an entire family.
Okay.
So we have early learning, which services from birth to 5.
Okay.
And so in our early learning and youth development, we also have youth development programs there. That's one area. We have workforce development that could address those parents of those same children, right?
Yep.
And then we have our commodity and supplemental food program, which is for seniors.
Got it.
That could be the grandparents of these parents of these children.
Yeah, literally
and
3 generations.
What ties all of those things together is our advocacy, equity, and community empowerment division, where we're advocating for all of those people I just talked about.
Got it.
And so we're funded, in a variety of ways across the organization, but particularly in workforce development. Like currently right now, there's probably 10 to 12 different grants that fund us.
Okay.
And so that's state funding. We have local city funding from like our local workforce board.
Sure.
But a lot comes from philanthropic gifts.
Yep.
We have individual donors that contribute. We even have people who put Focus Hope in their estate planning.
Wow.
And so, we have a lot of different funding mechanisms that allows us to be able to do the work that we do. But we also have corporate donors.
Okay.
So on Focus Hope's board sit a lot of folks within industry. So a lot of the big 3 that I talked about, a lot of the newer electrification folks, banking folks. So people who really can IT that connect to industry, who are able to also bring in dollars, but connect our workforce students with employment opportunities.
Got it.
So with all of the funding and how we are on a continuous wave of always getting funding, the programs are at no cost to our students.
Oh, I was going to ask that. So there's no tuition, they enroll, and it's just 100%
they enroll.
funded.
We have a strong barrier mitigation process where anything that could be a barrier for our students to complete training and to enter the workforce successfully, we mitigate that.
Cool.
So if the barrier is transportation,
right,
they could get gas cards or bus tickets to class.
Awesome.
In addition to that, once they get employed, they could get like Lyft credits or Uber credits to work until they get their first check. We're connecting with Ford right now on a project to provide actual vehicles, because one, they're on our board, but they're also a partner and an employment partner with us. So there are a lot of great things that we're doing, not just the training and education, but the holistic approach that we're taking to addressing all of the needs of our students to ensure that they're successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely incredible, the work that you're doing, the partners that you have, the support that you're getting, all of it free of charge or free of cost to the student, and taking away those barriers so there really isn't any any reason why, at least you hope there isn't any reason why a student wouldn't complete their coursework and end up with these incredible careers. I would love to hear a couple success stories. Are there a couple that you want to point to, Tiffany, of students that have gone through the program that have really taken off and done great things?
Man, there's so many.
Sure, right?
There's so many. It's really hard to pick one. But the one thing I would really love to lift up is I talked a little bit about the Center for Advanced Technologies that we had, where our students could go through and be able to earn engineering degrees in all types of engineering, including IT. A lot of those graduates came back and they're our instructors now.
Okay, wow.
So they worked in industry and they came back and they teach within our program.
Sure, that's awesome.
One such graduate you're actually going to have on the podcast, Don Hutchinson.
Oh yeah,
so he's
I know
the
Don
dean
well. He's awesome. Yeah,
Don is actually a graduate of our Center for Advanced
I didn't know
Technology.
that.
He'll tell you.
That is so cool. I'm a huge Don Hutchinson fan and know him through a couple different things that we do. Dean at Macomb Community College, of course, and just what an amazing individual.
He's so awesome. He gives so much back to Focus Hope. He uplifts all the work that we do. Actually came back after working in industry for a little bit of time and was the program manager for our Machinist Training Institute before going over to Macomb.
Yeah, very cool.
Just such a great light that he is. But there are so many, I really can't just pick one. Like we have so many successful folks who have come through our program.
I believe it, for sure. Let's talk about the future a little bit. Let's roll the clock forward maybe 5 years. What's on the horizon for Focus Hope?
Yes. So one of the things that we consistently, I talked about our board, but we also have an advisory committee of which has a workforce subcommittee.
Okay.
So I talked about all of those really big partners, and we're always growing more. But the thing that as the new workforce director, I'm looking at is the strategy that gets us to the point that we are continuously improving, looking at our curriculum and making sure that it matches where industry is going.
For sure.
And so we have an employer advisory council as well as that workforce subcommittee where they're looking at our curriculum. They're partnering with us also to connect with our students and employ them. So it's in their interest to speak with us about where the industry is going in the next 3 to 5 years to ensure that we're training to those specific things.
Absolutely.
So right now we're looking at new industries like cell manufacturing.
Yep. Battery cell.
Battery cell for EV vehicles.
Yep.
We're looking at so many different new industries, and we're moving toward those curriculums, and that's particularly because of the connections that we have with employers and what they're feeding back into us. I forgot to mention that, as well as the other funding streams that I mentioned, that we do have employers who pay for entire cohorts.
Wow.
So some of them pay for cohorts just to pay for them because they believe in the work that we're doing, and they don't necessarily even have open positions at that point, but they want to see the industry continue to grow. But then we have employers who we customize curriculum for new employees that are coming in, but also incumbent workers.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so you just think about looking forward and thinking about all the changes that are taking place in the world of advanced manufacturing is just one example. And I hope you had an opportunity to walk around Automate a little bit and just see some of this amazing technology. I mean, I'm a person who spent my entire career in advanced manufacturing, and so it's been so refreshing to see all the innovation that's taking place in manufacturing now. And your organization's responsibility is to make sure that as you're creating new curriculum, new hands-on skills and experiences, engaging with the right certifications that are going to be valued by industrial employers in the future. So really listening to those industrial employers, I'm hearing, is a key part of your strategy for probably not just the next 5 years, but the next 50 in an organization that's been around for 55 years now. Absolutely amazing longevity there. I do want to ask you one final question as we're kind of closing up our time together, Tiffany, and it's a question we'd love to ask every single one of our guests here on the Tech Ed podcast, is to kind of go back in time before all this 15 years at Focus Hope, before your time in South Carolina, before your post-secondary education, all this stuff, go all the way back to being a 15-year-old individual. And I know you have a child that isn't too much younger than that now, so relating to maybe that. Tell me a little bit about, if you were to go back in time to the 15-year-old Tiffany and give her one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think my advice to my 15-year-old self would be not to worry so much, and not to let other people's expectations of what I should be and what I should do weigh me down, because I would always be in the right spot wherever I needed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly you found your way into the right spot now. You're just doing it. I mean, it was fascinating to meet you, to hear about the mission of the organization, all the lives that you're changing, the way that you're staying up on all these technologies, and consistently redesigning the organization and its offerings to make sure that it's relevant. And I just so much appreciate, Tiffany, the time that you were able to spend with us this morning here on the Tech Ed Podcast. Tiffany Graydon, Director of Workforce and Development and Education for Focus Hope, an amazing organization doing amazing things here in Detroit. And I'm going to argue that the things you're doing here in Detroit are probably spreading their way across the entire state of Michigan, the Midwest, and the entire United States, as these students that you're affecting and families that you're helping are moving into amazing careers and amazing opportunities, and creating futures for themselves they never envisioned. And you're doing that great work, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.